that is, into eastern parts of England. The showers in the Midlands tending to fade away, and the showers just along the south coast there, so for Kent, for parts of Cornwall, also tending to fade away through the night. But showers do continue for northern Scotland, rain and hill snow here, and clear spells breaking out elsewhere will bring, in places, a touch of frost, especially for Northern Ireland, into northern England, North Wales, East Anglia. But a bright start where we get a frost. Away from the frostier areas, still some cloud about for southern parts of the UK and more especially the east and the far north. Here, there'll continue to be showers, but this time the showers brought by an increasing northerly wind. As a result, it's going to feel cold on Tuesday afternoon. Temperatures on the thermometer, 7 or 8 in the south, 4 or 5 in the north, but take off a few degrees for what it will feel like in the wind, more like the low to mid single figures. And it turns even colder on Tuesday night. By midnight, the showers increasingly falling as snow at all levels for northern Scotland. The snow really building up here on Tuesday night and into Wednesday. There'll also be showers into the east of England, parts of Northern Ireland, where we see those showers coming and going. Perhaps some icy patches as we start off Wednesday. Certainly a widespread frost across western England, northern England, southern Scotland and Wales. -3, -4 Celsius in places. But a bright start in these locations. Plenty of sunshine through the day on Wednesday. Areas of cloud and showers affecting North Sea coasts, Irish Sea coasts, Northern Ireland. These will consist of rain and hill snow, but the snow across northern Scotland really building up, 2 to 5 centimetres at lower levels, 5 to 10 centimetres over the hills.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's me again, Lawrence Fox, stepping in for Nigel for 1 week only. Well, until the next time I'm back. Anyway, tonight I've got for you a free speech debate, my absolute favourite. The royal race row rumbles on, an England football legend on the back of our fantastic win in the World Cup, and on Talking Pints, an activist who has dedicated his life to right the wrongs of this world. But first, the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Lawrence, thank you. This is the latest from the GB Newsroom. The RMT has announced an extra strike on Network Rail from Christmas Eve until 6 a.m. on the 27th of December. Next week's strikes will also go ahead as planned. The union says its members will vote on the latest offer from Network Rail with a recommendation to reject. Number 10 says the current offer of an 8% pay rise over 2 years, as well as a guarantee of no compulsory redundancies before April 2024, is fair. The union rejected that deal, saying it won't protect its members and will lead to unsafe practices. GB News understands an 8th child has died after contracting strep A. It follows a 12-year-old child being the first secondary school student to have died after contracting the invasive infection. The UK Health Security Agency confirmed a single case was identified at Colf School in South London. Downing Street is urging parents to be on the lookout for symptoms and says there are no shortages of antibiotics. More than 850 cases were reported in the week starting the 14th of November, compared to over 180 for the same period last year. Labour says it will look at abolishing the House of Lords if it wins the next general election. Sir Keir Starmer set out his blueprint for a new Britain during a speech in Leeds, promising the biggest ever transfer of power from Westminster to nations and regions if his party comes into power. Launching a report which was led by former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, he vowed to overhaul the way the country is governed. Downing Street says it's confident the UK has sufficient energy supplies ahead of temperatures severely set to drop this week. A cold weather alert has been issued for England, with severe conditions forecast from 6 p.m. Wednesday to next Monday. A yellow warning for snow has also been issued for northern Scotland, with temperatures expected to fall to as low as -10 overnight. Healthcare services are urging people to protect vulnerable and high-risk groups. Police say watches and jewellery was stolen during a burglary at Raheem Sterling's home. The England forward's family came home to find a number of items were missing, but Surrey police say it's not clear when they were taken. Manager Gareth Southgate hasn't been able to confirm whether the footballer will return to Qatar to play in the World Cup quarter-final this weekend. Meanwhile, England is now preparing to take on reigning champions France on Saturday. Bukayo Saka scored against Senegal last night in the 3-0 victory. He says England have nothing to fear in their upcoming clash.
There's no doubt, the quality we have in our team. We're blessed with an amazing front line with so much quality attacking players, and when you get selected in that lineup, it shows how much confidence and trust the coach puts in you, so it gives you that extra confidence to go out there and shine, and last night you were able to do that.
TV, online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Farage with Lawrence.
Good evening. If you've only just been paying attention to the BBC or any of the other corrupt mainstream media organisations recently, you may well have missed the biggest story on earth this past week, other than the English Kneeling Society putting on yet another sterling show for a rather bemused-looking Senegal national team. The story in question is that the outcome of the 2020 US presidential election may not be all it seems. I'm not talking about ballot harvesting, early voting, changes to voter ID laws, or glitchy voting machines, although all of these have contributed to a fundamental shift in the way that every American election from this day forward will be run. I'm talking about collusion, not between Donald Trump and the Russians, but between big tech and the soon-to-be anointed Joe Biden administration. It all started with a tweet. The Babylon Bee, an online satirical magazine, named a rather attractive chap called Admiral Rachel Levine, Assistant Secretary for Health in the USA, Man of the Year. And the non-binary offence Stasi at Twitter went mental and decided that this statement of biological fact shattered their community guidelines and henceforth locked the Bee out of their account unless they deleted the hate tweet. Anyway, long story short, Seth Dillon, Babylon's CEO, had no intention of removing said tweet, and this prompted Elon Musk to enter the fray and utter the immortal words, "I may need to buy Twitter," which he did after some wrangling, and in doing so, he may just have done the single greatest service to freedom of speech in the internet era. Musk is a brave man and a genius. He's made the most valuable automotive brand worldwide from scratch. He builds rockets and sends them into space, all whilst having enough time to smoke the devil's lettuce and shoot the breeze with Joe Rogan. He's an iconoclast, an eccentric, and most importantly, he is a true liberal in the classical sense, rather than in the modern, insane, child mutilation supporting, doomsday cultist, compelled speech fanatic, cancel culture sense. So, having nipped to the cash point for $44 billion required, the keys to Twitter HQ were handed over, and once inside, he started rummaging around in the cupboards to see what he could find. He then announced he was going to release his findings, the Twitter files, as he calls them, not to a mainstream media outlet, but to an independent journalist, Matt Taibbi. What has come out in this first tranche, the second is due imminently, is quite simply shocking. Well, not to us conspiracy factualists, because we already knew, on account of us not much enjoying the taste of the BS which comes from our own regime's propaganda arm, the BBC, or their American alternatives, CNN and MSNBC. The New York Post revealed, prior to the presidential election, that they had seen the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop, which he had not bothered to pick up from a repair shop owing to the mind-boggling amounts of chemicals he'd consumed that day. The contents of this laptop revealed, in between some fairly spicy pictures of Hunter's sex life, actual collusion between the Bidens and an entire host of foreign companies and countries, from Ukraine to Beijing. Huge sums changed hands between these entities and Hunter Biden, and there was always a clause stipulating 10% for the big guy. Who could that be? One wonders. Twitter, at the time, decided to stop this story being shared, even as a direct message, a sanction usually reserved for the most appalling content, the sharing of child pornography, for example. They did this despite there being no reason to believe the story was false in any way. Twitter's collusion in this matter was long suspected, but only this week confirmed, thanks to Elon Musk and his quest for the truth. Since this egregious piece of censorship took place, several surveys and polls have revealed that had Democratic voters known of this laptop from hell, as Miranda Devine called her fantastic book on the subject, it would have affected the way that some Democrats would have voted. So there you go. There was collusion in the 2020 presidential race, just not the collusion the Democrats and the media wanted you to believe, that Trump was colluding with those pesky Russians. Instead, it was the Bidens who are colluding with big tech, Ukraine, and China. Now, I make this point because the Democrat sister party in the UK, Labour, have said that they will reinstate the legal but harmful clause to the online safety bill, which will give the state the right to remove pretty much anything online which they deem harmful. Convenient that, isn't it? Seeing as we're staring down the barrel of a Labour government currently in the next couple of years, that should give us all pause, as here in England, we may not have such a generous billionaire to make sure the public know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, I'm asking you, does this government care about free speech? Email me at farage@GB News UK or use the hashtag Farage on GB News. Well, like I mentioned, the Online Safety Bill returned to Parliament today after a 5-month delay. The controversial law originally contained a lawful but harmful clause that would see certain social media companies remove posts relating to controversial topics such as surviving suicide, domestic abuse and self-harm. This has since been removed. The proposed law would also see that social media companies would have to hand over data to the bereaved families in the event of users taking their own lives. It has been supported by several high-profile child protection charities, and I'm joined now by founder and president of the Free Speech Union, Toby Young, as well as Sharon Gafka, who appeared on Love Island and is a campaigner for the Online Safety Bill. Okay, for us at home who don't really know what's going on, what is the Online Safety Bill?
So the Online Safety Bill was first unveiled in 2018 by Sajid Javid, then the Home Secretary, and he said it was intending a piece of legislation that would make Britain the safest place in the world to go online. And this was in response to understandable concern about the harm that some unfiltered content was doing to children online. But in the course of the last 4 years, when we've had not one but 3 new prime ministers since 2018, it's sort of mushroomed into something much bigger, and it's no longer designed simply to protect children. It's also a new clause has crept in which is designed to protect adults from content that is supposedly legal but harmful to them. And that's obviously of some concern to free speech concerners, not least because one of the founding principles of English common law is that if something isn't explicitly prohibited, then it's permitted. That's the foundation of English liberty, quite different to the continent, where unless something is explicitly permitted, then it's prohibited. But this creates a grey area which departs from that principle, this concept of something which is legal but harmful. And under the previous version of the bill, big providers like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube were going to be encouraged to remove this legal but harmful content, which the government was going to designate in a separate statutory instrument, which could easily be updated by future Labour digital secretaries in the way you described. Now, the new version of the bill, which was unveiled by Michelle Donnellan in Parliament today, she's the new digital secretary, is a bit better. So the legal but harmful clause has gone. Big providers are still going to be able to say how they're going to give users tools to protect themselves from that content if they don't want to see it. So something like a safe browsing mode for those social media platforms, but they're not going to encourage the platforms to ban it altogether. So it still has problems from a free speech point of view, because are the default settings going to be the safety settings in which you won't be able to get, for instance, GB News content unless you dial them back to unsafe settings, because GB News content may be designated unsafe by Facebook. But, you know, if we can address that issue, I think we're on our way to a more liberal bill in which, you know, everyone is their own content moderator and not relying on, you know, legislation to protect them from harmful content, which is perfectly legal.
Sharon, anyone look through my Twitter feed is legal but harmful, some of it illegal but harmful. Why are you such a fan?
Why am I such a fan of the online safety bill? Mainly because, well, the Justice Department have recently added to the new bill that was released today that deepfake pornography will be made illegal. At the current moment, it's not. Sending unsolicited photos is not illegal. It will be illegal as part of the bill. And actually, you know, I don't think it's about moderating content. When you look at things such as suicide, for example, we've seen cases such as Molly Russell. It's not how to recover, ways to find help. It teaches you how to do things that are harmful to yourself. And that's why we're seeing such a big increase of young people, especially young women, suffering at the hands of social media and giant tech companies. Twitter, regardless of, we all disagree on whether, well, I know us three have very different opinions on Elon Musk's takeover. But recently I've seen a massive increase of right-wing tweets coming up on my Twitter feed that I don't follow these accounts.
Me too. I've got loads of left-wing tweets coming up going, I hope you die tomorrow. It's amazing.
I mean, I'm not saying that.
Or I hope your kids are dead, or do you ever get to see your kids and you're the worst, most evil person in the world? And I just go like this. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
That's all well and good. Like, I'm sorry that you're receiving those tweets, and I don't think that anybody
I don't want them banned, though. I think people should be able to harm me in that way.
OK, that's beside the point. You are one out of however many. I personally don't want to be on the receiving end of those kinds of messages, and I am on a daily basis.
So am I.
Yeah, but I don't want to see that. Whether you want to see that or not, it's a different thing. You are one of very few people that is OK with seeing that.
Can I ask, would you be happy with the user empowerment model, which is in the new version of the bill, in which if you don't want to see content that's legal but you regard as offensive and upsetting, you can adjust your own safety settings to prevent you from seeing that, but you're not requiring the social media companies to ban it for everyone?
Is that going to be a setting that's set for adults, or is that going to be a setting that's set for children? Because I don't necessarily think people under the age of 18 are going to put those settings in place, because I know that there are certain things out there already in place on social media platforms to protect myself. Word filter, for example. But young children don't use those.
But I set my son's phone up, and it said to me, would you like a 9 to 10 setting, 10 to 11? It's like there's some quite strong online protection already. And I set my son's actually a little bit higher. I went, he can go 12, 13, because, you know, he's got some pretty spicy flavours in YouTube. But
I think we probably all agree that it should be possible for parents to be able to set their children's social media settings to safe, so they don't see pornography, they don't see any material that's going to trigger them, upset them, etc. But there is a problem with age verification, and it came up recently. So the Conservative Woman, a right-of-centre conservative online magazine, contacted the Free Speech Union to say, we've been blocked by 3, the mobile service phone provider. And the reason we've been blocked is because they outsourced content moderation to the British Board of Film Classification. They said classify websites, give them a PG 15 or 18 rating, and if they rated 18, we'll ban them on our default settings in case children can access any content. So they decided, I mean, it's all very well to say, let's protect children from content that's only suitable for adults. But in that case, what happened was it meant 3 banning the Conservative Woman on the grounds that it was only suitable for adults, and therefore not just children, but anyone who couldn't adjust the default settings on their phone couldn't access the Conservative Woman. So we need to be careful that soft censorship doesn't creep in under the guise of protecting children.
I agree with that point, but for example, Twitter, previous to Elon Musk takeover, had banned specific people. Dare I say his name, Andrew Tate being one of them. And actually, I see a massive increase in misogyny online and in real life taking place based on the fact that he is allowed to, as free speech, share hate messages towards women. Actually, I was leaving a meeting with my local MP on Friday talking about harassment of young women with a 16-year-old constituent, and I was told by a group of 14-year-olds they'd love to see me gangbanged. Or quite violent, explicit things which they have learnt online as a result of free speech.
Look, no one is denying that 14-year-old boys say the most ridiculous, horrible things.
They do, but I shouldn't be terrified to walk home based on things that people are learning online.
You shouldn't be terrified to walk home. But the world is an imperfect place. And what one can't do is turn around to an adult and go, for the sake of a bunch of 14-year-old boys being horribly vile to you, and I'm so sorry that happened, that everybody's content has to be moderated into oblivion.
I just think that moderated into oblivion.
If you can sell to me, I think all points you raised have been really good about suicide, about self-harm, about this stuff. No one wants that. But as you become an adult, you've got to develop a sense of your own backbone, which is, I'm going to get abuse, you're a public figure, you were on Love Island, for goodness sake, right? I've not seen much Love Island, but I think there's a lot of bikinis. As last time I checked.
Started online at the age of 14, regardless of Love Island. And actually, I think it gets worse the more I talk about issues that are impacting young women, because men on the internet are trying to censor me. I don't want to be offensive.
Who's trying to censor you? You're on TV.
No, I'm on TV at this current moment in time, but men on the internet, we are on a TV show, have tried to censor me for stopping talking about issues that I find very important to talk about by sending me hateful messages because they feel like it would deter me.
No, fair enough. Listen, misogyny does exist.
Yes.
Eddie Izzard didn't
I think
her chance to stand yesterday.
Sure.
So it's out there.
Yeah, and I think all of us want to reduce violence, even hateful speech towards women and girls. But the problem is, I think you're assuming that if you suppress this kind of content, if you ban Andrew Tate from Twitter, that's going to reduce violence towards women and girls. Whereas actually the evidence suggests that in more authoritarian, more censorious societies like Iran and Saudi Arabia, there is much more violence towards women and girls than in more liberal, less censorious societies like Scandinavian countries, for instance. And I think the problem with saying you must ban perfectly lawful but hateful speeches. Who gets to decide whether it's hateful? A lot of gender-critical voices were banned by Twitter under the previous regime. If you said, I don't think a woman can have a penis, or I don't think trans women are women, or trans women should be able to access women's refuges, you were banned. That was considered hate speech under the previous regime. So the difficulty is, if you allow hate speech to be banned and you appoint, these moderators at Twitter to decide for all of us what we can and can't see, you're then into censorship, and it doesn't necessarily help the people you want to protect.
Sorry.
How much of Mr. Tate's content have you ever witnessed yourself?
Well, do you know what is spooky? Is that the only time I tried to put in these curbs on age was the fact that I found both my children, I'd never mentioned the word Andrew Tate to them at all, both of them watching Andrew Tate, and I had to go, right, this has got to stop.
Yeah.
But this is happening. Toby's right. If you ban it, it just goes somewhere else. I think all the points you made are really good, and I think it is important that we pay more attention to the vile abuse that women particularly receive online, and we all receive online. But we also got to make a distinction that it's online. and...
But it's not. It's transpiring to real life based on the example that I just gave you. That kind of language is definitely, I believe, learnt from online platforms like characters like Andrew Tate. Unfortunately, when we see people that commit very serious crimes, it's from a pattern of behaviour that stemmed from when they were very young and is learnt...
That's arguable and contentious, but we can, that's not fact. But we can agree that this has been an interesting discussion, and thank you both for joining me. Okie dokie. Right, where are we? Oh, I can't never work this bloody thing. OK, right. Other way, go upwards. Sorry. Just stick me where I need to read it. I've got this machine. All right, we're on to the Royal Race Round now. Coming up, I'll discuss the Royal Race Round that doesn't seem to be going away, like my ability to operate the auto cue machine. Bye.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back. Tonight, I'm asking you, does this government care about free speech? Matt says, our government look on at the Chinese with envy and definitely want to remove free speech. I've got to agree with you, it does make life easier for governments, doesn't it, if they can shut up the plebs. Michael says, our government only believes in free speech if it benefits their cause. I couldn't agree more. Diane says, I'm afraid this government does not believe in free speech. They have ruined our country. Oh, I agree with everyone. I love this. Richard says, the government, or the opposition for that matter, would not respect the right of free speech if it conflicts with their agenda. That's exactly right, and that's why why we want to remove free speech, because free speech is the weapon in the engine room of people that don't have power and loads of money and Lamborghinis and private jets who walk around the world lecturing us about the climate. Anyway, Ken says no. Our government and all of Westminster do not support free speech nor the freedom of the individual. We've known that for the last 2 years as they tried to force us to get you-know-whatted. As always, get in touch. Email Farage at GB News UK or use the hashtag Farage on GB News. It's time for What the Fox moment. And it is that we're actually quite good at football. 56 years of hurt is too much for any man or woman to take. So, excuse me if I may be jumping the gun, but I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, football might be coming home. Yesterday, goals from Henderson, Kane and Saka, according to my son, saw us confirm our spot in the quarterfinals of the World Cup against the current holders, France. It might not be an easy one, but history tells us we do love a battle with the French. Joining me now is England's most capped player, Peter Shilton. Good evening, Peter. How are you doing?
Good evening, Lawrence. I'm very well, enjoying the World Cup. It's been a World Cup of surprises, but obviously now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty where it really matters.
Have we got enough to stop the old Frenchies?
I'm hoping so. I think if we do stop the Frenchies, as you put it, then I think we can start dreaming about actually winning the World Cup. Up to now, I think we've done well. You know, we've beaten what I could call moderate opposition, but we've done it well. But the big test is obviously against France, who are obviously World Cup winners.
Do you have, sorry, because I've got to take it back to my major bugbear in life about the kneeling. Was there politics in the game when you were playing?
No, I can't really remember anything like any politics, and I suppose that's why I'm against politics in football when it goes onto the football pitch or in the football stadium. I think politics outside. Yeah, we've got kick-out racism in football. There's a lot of very good things being done, but I personally wouldn't want to take the knee, but being a team player, I would basically, go with the majority. I mean, if the majority of the team wanted to take it, I wouldn't, just be the one out sort of thing. Or I would definitely go along with the team. But generally, I wouldn't feel. I feel it's something that's lost its impact a little bit now.
Was it? I mean, it struck me as strange that the England football team were kneeling and the Senegalese football team just looked confused to them. I agree with you. I don't think there should be politics in football. So we've had the 1996 song, The Football's Coming Home. Is it going to come home? Do you think we've got a real chance here?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, we've got a nice blend of youth and experience. And experience now, we got to the World Cup semi-final last time it was played, and we got to Euros final. So, we have been doing quite well in tournaments, and this is a big test. I think we're as good as we have been in those tournaments. I think we're as strong as we have been, and it's all to play for. It's going to be tough against the French, but who's to say we can't do it and be in the semis? And then I think we've got a great chance, as I said, of actually winning it. But we've got to overcome the French first with some great players, Mbappe and players like that. They're world-class players.
And who's been your player of the of the tournament on the English team so far?
I think Bellingham, he's come in, he's a young lad, not a lot of experience for England. He's come very late, but he's looked so mature and he looks so strong, and he scored a very good goal, in the first match, the first goal which got us on our way. I think he's been a revelation, really. But I think generally, the team has played well. Harry Kane's been a little bit off form in terms of goals, but the other night he got his first goal, and that could open the floodgates, knowing Harry Kane, because he is a natural goal scorer.
And just for what is the pressure like when you walk out, you know, to play for your country, to stand in front? I have this memory, please correct me if I'm wrong, of you having this horrible, dodgy deflection off a free kick that skied right over your head when you were playing the Germans. Did that happen, or am I imagining it?
No, Lawrence, you've got a good memory. It was in the Italian 90 World Cup semi-final, and it was an end-to-end game, and they got a free kick, and it was you cover the free kick, you get to one side of the goal, and then it's knocked square for a direct shot, so you kind of got to change your position, and you get square on, and all of a sudden the ball's took a wicked deflection, and it's gone in the one place that don't, and I just didn't get a chance to get my body side on, which is what you do as a goalkeeper, to go backwards. And so I had to sort of try my best, and it went in the one place I didn't want it to. And it was a fluke, complete fluke. But we got an equaliser, and thankfully, and then we went in and lost the penalty shootout. But
well, you also made my father.
It was still the highlight of my career.
I think you also brought a tear to my father's eye, that free kick. Anyway, thank you, Peter Shilton, England legend forever. Right, up next, the Royal Race Row rumbles on. Back soon.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness, brilliant. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello. Right, some more of your reactions. I asked you earlier, does this government care about free speech? One viewer says, of course they care. but something must be done to stop the hate. OK, this is confusing. Who decides what the hate is? I mean, go through my Twitter profile, fortunately, I don't get it on the street, I only get it online because cowards are cowards. But who gets to decide what hate is? And also, hate is a natural human emotion, like love. We shouldn't have to stop it. Anyway, Jane says they do, but the vile tweets and graphic content need to stop. It is awful. That's the problem with the internet. It's a lawless land. And probably should remain so. They want to control everything we do, another viewer says. David says we need something to change, but I do fear that the government may be going too far. No SH1T, Sherlock. Another viewer says the online safety bill is an attack on our freedoms. You know what? It is. Usually, government legislation that says something like the Equality Act doesn't create equality. Online safety bill is definitely not going to create more online safety. It's just going to squeeze our right to speak and express ourselves more honestly. Sophie says, I had to put up with horrible comments online for a while. Why is it such a bad thing to stop this? Because it's called free speech. And if people can't say horrible things to each other, they can't say nice things to each other either. Then again, we're back to the same argument of what is nice, what is horrible, what is harmful. You're better off allowing this horrible minority of people to say their vile things on Twitter and no one cares. Right. More importantly, well, not more importantly, nothing's more important than free speech. But anyway, the GB News Tavern is open and it is time for Talking Pints. Tonight, I am very privileged and honoured to be joined by Alan Miller, activist, co-founder of London's Old Truman Brewery and the Nighttime Industries Association and the Together Declaration. Alan, online safety bill. Wait, first, cheers, brother.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you.
You too. Online safety bill. What do you reckon?
I think the online safety bill, very problematic. I should say, first of all, well done to everyone that has campaigned to challenge the egregious elements in it, some of which have gone. The lawful but harmful element has gone. That's good. But we've got a big problem, which is that the government is now seeking to have big tech, Silicon Valley, the mores of those companies decide through their terms and conditions what we can and cannot say. So in a sovereign nation where we've had generations and centuries of people who've put their lives on the line, who fought and died to enshrine and protect our rights to free speech will now be decided in Silicon Valley. And we've seen what that's looked like in the past, and we've seen with the Twitter files and other things what that's looked like in the last few days. So I'm very concerned that the government thinks that it always wants to keep us safe, and some of the comments, this idea that they keep us safe, but actually it's very dangerous. We should say it's very dangerous because if we're not allowed to air out...
The online dangerous bill.
Yeah. Well, if we're not allowed to discuss ideas, we should remind ourselves that some of the most inflammatory ideas that were the most offensive were things like universal suffrage, right? The idea that women should have the vote.
The Earth revolving around the sun.
Copernicus, Galileo, scientists that were, tortured. Martin Luther, here I stand, I can do no other, right? Which led to, the Reformation and the ability for us all to have conscience and to speak and pamphleteering and to, people always say now hold truth to power, but like to challenge those in power and to be a heretic. Now the new heresy is to say that you're a free speech absolutist, and I think it's important to say that there are some terrible, horrible things and that I really don't enjoy seeing and I hate. But the flip side of free speech is tolerance. And tolerance doesn't mean you go along with everything. You say, hey, that's all cool. Tolerance means that you tolerate it, but you robustly criticise it.
Yeah.
And you can say, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's unplaced, I think you're wrong, but I want to convince someone else who I don't agree with about the merit and the virtue of my argument, right? I believe in the ability of humans to work things out, to shine the light of reason as an antiseptic on bad ideas. The problem with the government and the online safety bill is that, the last few decades we've had all these technocrats that actually have now become petrified of us, the public. They think that they need to keep us safe because they think we're all about to turn into these, or they think we are already, mad, bad and dangerous. They think that they need to decide, or big tech needs to decide, the great and the good, how the great unwashed sees things, how we exercise judgment, because you never guess what, Lawrence, right? What's going to happen is people are suddenly going to do terrible things. They'll hear and see things, and they won't think that's preposterous, that's silly, or I agree with that bit and not that bit. They'll just suddenly start doing terrible things. And I think the big concern now is that we've seen what has happened on the US campuses with free speech, now coming to the workplace everywhere, what can be said, and even to the palace, right? So we've now got a situation where everywhere we're dominated by speech codes, this idea that, you know, if you give offence, it's a problem. And young people have been brought up without actually having the arguments made.
Mental robustness. They don't have emotional and mental robustness because they're not taught it. They're taught that, kids are taught that offence is more important than anything.
Well, that's exactly.
And this is my problem, is that you've got to drag the hate out into the light, which is what you're saying. And I agree with you. It's like, if it's hateful and horrible, and we all think it's hateful and horrible, we just drag it out into the light and say, what does everyone else think? And they'll generally point it and go, scummy. We don't like it. But to sacrifice the entire thing of someone's feeling of whether they're being a bit hurty for the nature of the sense that some people are going to say some horrible things online, I think is an egregious attack on our personal liberty. And you know what? We had 2 years of having one debate, of which there was only one side.
Exactly.
And now we'd lost our 9th child today to a strep infection.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? There was no other side to that debate. And people are dying as a result of this stuff. So you, who've always been very good at this, and, you know, me, because I'm bonkers, will always campaign for this right for us to express ourselves. It gives the working person, I hate to sound it because it sounds patronising and classist, but it gives the person with nothing power.
It's the only thing that we have that guarantees the ability to live freely. Without that, we don't have it. It's really interesting that Michelle Donovan, Secretary of State, the DCMS, has, you know, gone along with this idea that they're actually going to give it to big tech to decide. And then Lucy Powell says, well, we don't want to substitute free speech for the terrible impacts and harms that can happen. And I think that also people mistake what is said by what is done. We have a whole lot of rules that are done there. And I really think that rather than the idea that people are keeping us safe, we champion the idea that we should remind ourselves, because in the last week or two we've had some very horrible things said about Britain, that this is a remarkable country, a very welcoming, very integrated. Yes, it's got problems and there are issues, but those issues don't get resolved either if we can't convince and win people over with our ideas. And I don't agree with many people, most people, right? But the only way that you can really get those things resolved and actually you can win someone over, this is the problem, right? A lot of people in politics have given up, the old left and the old right, they've given up on the idea that people make history and you need to win them to ideas and you need to be held accountable. So instead they just want to do not in front of the children. Now, there are issues, really, really concerning ones about some terrible things that go on online.
We're going to come to that. Yeah. We're going to come to that. We're going to be back after the break. Sorry, someone tells me in my ear, we got to go. See you in a minute.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Welcome back. It's Talking Pints with Alan Miller, activist and co-founder of London's Old Truman Brewery and the Nighttime Industries Association, and the Together Declaration, which I thought was a really rather good idea. Anyway, look, Kemi is against this stuff. She's voiced her concern.
Yeah.
Sir John Hayes, always a smart dude. Do you think there's enough wannabe in the government to mess with this before they get chucked out by Labour in 2 years?
Well, David Davis has also put in an amendment to say that we should not end encryption, because one of the other things of this Snoopers Charter and the Censors Charter is that they want to get rid of encryption, which is on Signal, on WhatsApp and other areas, and scan every conversation and discussion.
They're doing that already though, mate, aren't they?
Well, some people, it's a bit like saying there's always been some people, and there have been spies that have looked at mail and things like that, but you have rules and regulations and not everyone. So to your point prior to the break, if you think about all the scientists and the journalists and the activists, and many people that are saying all sorts of things that now look like they're the case, but some people who said wacky things as well, right? All of them have gone. And there are significant issues about actual real safety as well for encryption, right? If you are in a dangerous situation domestically, if you are politically a whistleblower, but actually our day-to-day transactions, and we see this around the digital ID discussion as well, and increasingly becoming the potential of it becoming a social credit system, the ability to be able to communicate without being surveyed, having privacy. And I think that as technology develops, it's exciting, right? And there's convenience and it's really good, and we should have that. But we've got to be able to insist on defending those rights.
It's gone already. The minute this stupid thing was invented, it's gone. Digital ID, money, all of it's gone.
Well,
when is the Royal Mint announced that they're printing the Prince Charles £50 note?
Yeah, well, so we have an event on Wednesday in London for anyone who wants to come, actually, on this very issue. Digital ID, central bank digital currencies, what, no cash, ATM machines, cash. One question is older people already have problems in how this is all playing out. But the idea, for instance, Oxfordshire Council is on the news because it wants to have a little lockdown, climate lockdown, stop people going outside the areas.
They would.
But you see that what's happening is if you look at things like making sure you get your rubbish recycled in the right way, or your carbon footprint.
Schellenberg says throw all of your plastic in the rubbish bin.
And they start fining you, right? And if you look at things that we've seen, like with the truckers and Trudeau taking bank accounts, and we look at people like, you know, all sorts of people, PayPal and others that have done things because of what you said, you start realising the concerns of the technocrats and the attempts to use these things like digital ID in that restrictive imposition way is a problem. However, nothing is a fait accompli, right? We, the people, ordinary people have always made history, right? If you think about what we managed to do, and, you know, I've got to say, Lawrence, as well, you're very important in being outspoken and being brave around the vaccine mandates and the vaccine passports, which is a precursor to digital ID, and actually putting yourself there where a lot of people in the industry, I should say, I'm never going to get to act now anyway, but, like, in your industry where...
You'd be good.
Oh,
in
thank
The
you, mate.
Godfather, I think there's I'll do it, Johnny. No problem.
Exactly. But, you know, that's the thing about courage, speaking out when you know that the consequences to yourself, a bit like Martin Luther, here I stand, I can do no other. But those things are really important. And we all stopped together, and you were involved in that, and many others, the vaccine mandates, right? And like NHS 100K and many others, and we put a limit on vaccine passports, and there are a lot of people around the world looked at Britain and what was happening. And the fact is that we've also stopped universities insisting on a mandate way after the mandate was there. We've had some impact on the online safety bill. And actually, I think we can curate the world, right? It's up to us. And I think that we have a responsibility to put pressure on our elected representatives, councillors and MPs and government, and say this is what we think about things and put pressure on them, because we found that when we do calls to action and we do that with them, they have to respond, and we put pressure and they know we're there. And that's why also at the Together Association, we have Take Back Democracy as one of our things. And what we mean by that is saying that the public need to be at the heart of things much more.
But it's game over on the democracy front. I mean, people who think that we still live in a democracy, I think are absolutely bonkers. That people think, all of my mates who used to vote Conservative are now going, I'm just going to vote Labour, because it's the only alternative. So you've got things like Together, you've got things like Reform, My Stuff, Reclaim, you've got a million little parties, you've got David Curtin, you've got Neil, you've got all these people, and none of these little entrepreneurs, not a single one, will I mean, you and I have a beer once in a while, but we don't get together and go, look, here's your problem. We will unite around a certain set of core principles that belong to the British people, one of them being freedom of speech, the second one being bodily autonomy. That would do me as a manifesto.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd be done. You could end me there. And why is there no reaction?
Well, let's get a panel on of all the people that are standing that might want to be in the opposition. But what we at Together are saying is this: well, we're launching a shadow cabinet that's going to have a number of different people.
My idea. You nicked my idea.
Maybe I did. Maybe through ESP I've got it and everything. Hey. But basically, where we have a number of different people speaking on different areas. But our core point is that the public has to be at the heart of things.
Why in the shadow cabinet?
Absolutely, if you want to be, mate.
Culture.
You know, exactly. But my point being that just because things are at a low point and denigrated, right, we should remember a few years ago the democratic impulse where people said, this is what we're going to do. They were called stupid, ignorant, a bit like we had in lockdowns. Everyone was called, go and sit in the corner, do as you're told. If we have a really strong public, if we engage, and we had people out locally, regionally and nationally campaigning around the mandates. We've now got that going on with the care workers saying they need to be compensated and reinstated, and we've got people around the country...
Shamefully treated.
But this is the point about the public. The more people... We also have to flex our muscles and get back used to the idea that it's up to us.
That we pay them.
Well, but it's up to us to make sure that the democracy that we want is there, that we are active, engaged citizens, that we put pressure on them. And look, then, if they're just not good enough, then that throws up the big question.
You're nice. I'm just like... When I saw the Tories tweet today going, we're giving you this off your electricity bill and we're giving 15 billion extra this and that, and I just went, no, you're not. We're giving you it, and you're, anyway, bleeping it out the wall. Right, Alan, you're going to stay with me.
Great.
Because I'm going for... It's time for Outfox the Fox, the part of the show when you can grill me from home. Ooh, that sounds painful. If you were Prime Minister, what would be first on your to-do list? I think a First Amendment, possibly. Worryingly, followed by a Second Amendment. Anyway, right, coming up next is the wonderful Patrick Christys, who's stepping in for Mark Stein. Patrick, darling.
Yes?
What have you got coming up?
I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it, Lawrence, that I'm here? But yes, indeed, I am. I am covering for the wonderful Mark Stein, and I am sick and tired of the British public being gaslit, OK? We are living in the Truman Show, and I'm going to pick that apart frame by frame at the top of my show. We're being asked to believe that every single person coming across the channel is some kind of orphan or a child or a woman fleeing a war zone, when we just patently know that isn't true. We're being told that we're skint, and yet at the end of the day as well, we also are being told that we've got the money to pay for all of this stuff. We were asked to believe that the coronavirus, of course, just came from some kind of bat-infused wet market, when in reality there was a massive centre for virology just next door. We're asked to believe that people didn't cover that up. We're asked to believe that kids are basically thick little idiots, but they can actually decide what gender they want to be from the age of 4, and that's absolutely fine, and that a male rapist being in a woman's prison is OK as well. I'm going to pick through all of the noise. I'm sick and tired of it. Oh, and also I'm teeing off on the fact that our British institutions, one by one, are having every single brick eroded, and including the latest one that Harry and Meghan are trying to do, which is knock down Buckingham Palace.
Hello, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Easterly winds have made it feel cold during the last few days, but in the next 24 hours, northerly winds arrive, which will turn things even colder, along with some significant snow in the north of Scotland. For the time being, we keep the easterlies, at least for the next 12 hours in places. Those easterlies continuing to bring some showers, rain showers that is, into eastern parts of England. The showers in the Midlands tending to fade away, and the showers just along the south coast there, so for Kent, for parts of Cornwall, also tending to fade away through the night. But showers do continue for northern Scotland, rain and hill snow here, and